Hi, my name is Caitlin Caudle, and for my student teaching, I was required to do a 2-week product of learning. And for my theme unit, I decided to do animals as living things. This is my table of contents, and these are the topics that will be discussed throughout my presentation. For my student teaching, I was placed at Central Elementary School, and it is located in Albemarle, North Carolina. Central Elementary School is a Title I school. I was placed in a 4th grade classroom with Ginger Burris, and in our classroom, we started out with 22 students and ended up with 21 students. There are 13 female students and 8 male students. 10 of them are Caucasian, 7 African American students, 2 Hispanic, and 2 Asian. I had 3 students who were ADD/ADHD, 4 AIG students, 1 English language learner student, and 6 that were resource. They would go out every morning at 8:30 and come back at 9 from the resource teacher. I had 6 students that I had to differentiate my lessons for. According to their personal education plans, these 6 students had to have every math test read aloud to them, and they also had to have extended time on their work. Some students didn't necessarily want to go out in separate rooms, but some of them, if they asked me, I would let them go out because that was part of their PEP. For my theme unit development, I mainly focused on the Common Core curriculum. My cooperating teacher, Ms. Burris, was so helpful with helping me develop my lessons, giving me suggestions of things that I could do with my students, and anything that she could think of to further my lesson to being better. And my grade level teachers were the exact same. I used a lot of internet resources and from Pinterest as well. And my classroom resources in Ms. Burris's class, she had so many resources that she allowed me to use at any time, no questions asked, which was very helpful in making my life easier when it came to developing my lessons and finding anything to use for them. These were the science standards for when I was teaching the first quarter of my student teaching. The first 2 standards were not part of my product of learning, but I gave my pretest before I started my product of learning because the students had already started working with animals, and so these were all the standards that were used throughout teaching animals. The math standards that were used for my product of learning were mainly dealing with fractions and multiplying them by whole numbers. And for language arts, those students got to focus with poems and drama and understanding their structural elements and using presentations to identify which versions reflected and everything like that, and making connections with all of it. For technology, the students used technology tools, mainly their laptops, to reinforce their activities, and we went over how to do simple research to help them with doing projects in their animal writing. And for art, they used art for a lot of their projects, so it was just applying their own personal choice and ideas to their writing or their art. For this science lesson, these students got to pretend that they were on a safari tour. I had 4 laptops set up around the classroom, one with 4, each of them had a different animal. There was a panda, a lion, a peacock spider, and a giraffe, and each animal was doing a different behavior. The students were split up into small groups, and they went from computer to computer after about 10 minutes or so. And they got to observe the animal doing this behavior, why they were doing this behavior, how they were doing it, and what reason the animal had doing that certain behavior. For the math lesson, the students were working with fractions, and how I would do my math lessons, I would put a problem on the board, And I would first let the students try and solve the problem on their own. And I would walk around the room and see how the students were thinking and how they were trying to solve these problems. And I would then tell the student if they were correct or not. And a student who showed a lot of thorough work and thought process and got the correct answer, I would go let them teach how to solve that problem to the class. I saw that this really helped my students understand how to do the math a little bit more, because they were learning from their peers and learning from someone who was thinking on their level. Now, I would still help out the student and teach how to do it and things like that, but I really felt that the students were able to connect with a student who is teaching. And for their writing lesson, the students were having a really hard time with keeping their notes organized and how to make it into a draft. So we really focused on that with them. So we made anchor charts on suggestions for them on their draft and how to keep their notes organized and things like that. And this really helped my students stay on track a lot more, because they can get sidetracked easily. But having this anchor chart and going over that with them really helped them to stay on track and keep up with their notes. These were the materials that were used. We used laptops a lot for our research about our animals. We used the active board some, and we used a lot of art supplies to create their projects. The students' pretest was made up of multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and fill in the blank questions. I had my students who I thought would do well that did well on it, and then I had students that I knew wouldn't do as well, and they didn't. These were my highest pretest grades, which I was very proud of. And these were my lowest pretest grades. For my formative assessments, I did a lot of different things. The students got to make an ecosystem mobile. They got to pick their ecosystem and then pick an animal from that ecosystem and do a little mobile from it. These were two of my highest grades, and then this was my lowest grade. We did the behavior poster, which was from the safari tour. And these are the student samples. This is their vocabulary quizzes. And then this is their animal book writing. This is one of my higher grades from the class. And she chose to write about a Tasmanian tiger, which I had never heard of before. And then this was what the lowest grade was. This is all that I had one student turn in. And then the summative assessment was the exact same as the formative. And I had a lot of students that improved from their pre-test to their post-test. This was the biggest growth that I had from one of my students, and that is amazing to me. And then I had one student who showed zero growth from their pre-test to their post-test. And to show my overall results, this is a graph to show the pre-test and post-test results. The blue is the pre-test and the red is the post-test. As you can see, student L is the only student who showed no growth, but all students showed some growth from pre-test to post-test. And these are the assessment grades for the formative assessment for their ecosystem mobile project, their behavior poster, and their vocabulary quiz. Overall, to reflect on my theme unit, I had a lot of fun, and so did my students. I was really excited to see how engaged they were and how much they promoted their own learning. They were always excited to share any new information they discovered. They would always be like, Miss Caitlin, come look at what I just learned about my animal. Miss Caitlin, my animal does this and this. It was really fun to see them so engaged and so excited, and that's what I really wanted to achieve for my theme unit. I wanted to have hands-on activities for them to do, and I wanted them to promote their own learning. So that's why I was always letting them choose what animal to do research on and things like that, because they were still learning about their adaptations, their habitats, and everything like that that we were covering in our theme unit, but yet they were getting to do it on an animal they wanted to learn about. But also, when everyone got to do their presentations, every student learned about a new animal as well. And that's what I really wanted for my theme unit, and I feel like I really, really achieved that. If I had to change one thing, the one thing that I would change is really focusing with my lower level students. I would really stay on them about staying organized, and I would even have them sitting with me so that way I could constantly help them with anything that they needed to, and so they could ask me questions, and so that I could be there at any time that they needed me. But that is my theme unit, and I hope that you enjoyed it.